I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Since it was published in 1986, Stephen King's It remains one of his most famous novels, thanks in part to the 1990 TV miniseries adaptation that helped Tim Curry's Pennywise haunt an entire generation of children. But this weekend, we'll now have Bill Skarsgård as the trans-dimensional evil clown haunting a gang of misfit kids in the cinematic re-adaptation of It. And yeah, maybe that Dark Tower movie didn't turn out so good. But there's plenty of people out there excited to see what they'll do with this Stephen King classic, since they no longer have to hold anything back from the novel for a TV audience. And since they're planning on doing this movie in 2 parts, that's had me thinking about the lil love genre of Stephen King sequels, when movie producers decide to make sequels to Stephen King adaptations without any input from Stephen King himself. I mean shit, the Children of the Corn series has managed to drain 8 movies out of a 30-page short story, and here I thought The Hobbit was stretched out too far. But the one we're talking about today is the one you viewers voted for me to review. From 1999, it's The Rage, Carrie 2. Yes, it all began in 1976 with Carrie, the very first Stephen King movie adaptation based on Stephen King's very first novel. And this film not only cemented Brian De Palma's status as a modern-day Hitchcock, but got its 2 lead actresses nominated for Oscars. The flick proved so popular as to spawn a Broadway musical, which flopped, an NBC TV pilot, which never became a series, and a 2013 remake, which bombed at the box office. But in the middle of all those was an actual sequel to the original movie, which started out as an original story under the title The Curse, before the producers realized how close their story was to Carrie and decided to turn it into a sequel. Sadly, it ended up nowhere near as successful as its predecessor, with critics and audiences dumping a big bucket of pig's blood all over it. So now I shall give this sequel a watch myself to see if it deserved a fairer shake. But first, I really need to know, how the hell did Children of the Corn get 7 sequels? Seriously, that's only 1 more than the Police Academy series. You hear that, Michael Winslow? Your noise-making ass got beat by a bunch of kids! So since Carrie was about a telekinetic girl being raised by a religious psycho mother, we open on another telekinetic girl and her religious psycho mother, this time being Rachel and Barbara Lang, with Rachel watching her mother paint a red stripe around the walls of their house so as to shield her gifted daughter away from demons.
Hey, I got an idea.
And thus ends the first and last episode of Extreme Makeover, Manson Family Edition. But the authorities come in to take Barbara away to a mental institution and put Rachel into a foster family, where she grows up into an 18-year-old girl played by Emily Burgle. You may remember her as Francie Jarvis on Gilmore Girls, but I've never watched that show myself because I'm too busy watching shit like The Rage, Carrie 2! On the bus to school, she meets up with her best friend Lisa, played by Mina Suvari, who brags to Rachel that she just lost her virginity to Brad, a jock on the football team played by Home Improvement's Zachary Ty Bryan. But little does Lisa know she's being used up by Brad and his fellow teammates, who are orchestrating a game where they rack up points according to how far they go with each girl they bang in the high school.
Total coyote day.
Oh man, what's a coyote day?
That's when you wake up in the morning, you got some ugly chick sleeping on your arm, and you'd rather gnaw it up and have to wake her up.
No, you fucking moron. That's actually called an 127 hours date. Also, are you seriously implying that Mina Suvari is supposed to be ugly?
What are you, stupid? What's the matter with you?
And after Mina Suvari realizes she's gonna be the only person from this movie to star in an Oscar winner for Best Picture afterwards, she commits suicide 13 minutes into the movie. And the saddest part of Lisa's death is that the car got a bigger page in the yearbook than she did. This is where we finally bring back the only person who survived the events of the first Carrie, Sue Snell, played by Amy Irving, who has overcome her traumatic experiences to become a guidance counselor at the high school, and finds out from Rachel that Lisa slept with Brad before she took her life. But when Brad is faced with charges of statutory rape, the judge and Brad's father are able to get him off.
Eric's a good kid. He may be guilty of some youthful transgressions.
Youthful transgressions?
Girl killed herself, Lou.
Now looky here, folks. We can all see this boy here is a white athlete who comes from a wealthy family and has a penis. Thus, he meets all 4 requirements for a get-out-of-jail-free card. You're free to go, son. Now go out there and rape some girls. Play some football. And much like how Nancy Allen vowed to have revenge on Carrie, Brad and his fellow dude bros vow to get their revenge on Rachel. But things get complicated when Rachel develops a relationship with one of the football players, Jesse, played by Jason London. The one from Dazed and Confused, not the one from Mallrats. Meanwhile, Sue is slowly finding out that Rachel has the same condition that Carrie White had.
What are you saying I have?
I'm saying you're not crazy, and it's not the devil. It's a trait, Rachel, you've inherited. Telekinesis.
Telekinesis.
Man, can you believe this woman's luck having to deal with 2 telekinetic misfit girls in the same town over 23 years? How can the same shit happen to the same girl twice? So Sue decides to visit Rachel's mom in the hospital and makes the shocking discovery that Rachel is actually Carrie White's half-sister.
I never told her because people around here aren't so fond of Carrie White because of what she did. He was her daddy too. His name was Ralph. Ralph White.
Man, this Ralph White dude really had a thing for psychopathically religious women, didn't he? Who's he gonna bang next, Marcia Gay Harden from The Mist? But before I go knocking on this movie, I'll give credit where it's due, and say that Emily Burgle is pretty good in the lead role, even though she's not even close to being as weird and heartbreaking as Sissy Spacek was. Plus, the jocks in this movie are effectively villainous, namely because they were based off a real-life group of high school boys in 1993 called the Spur Posse, who also scored points off their sexual conquest with underage girls. But the movie doesn't want to put a fresh spin on the original Carrie. Instead, it just settles for being a cheap copy of it. You got a bully seeking revenge on a misfit girl. You got a sympathetic friend of that bully trying to help out the misfit girl. You got a sympathetic adult trying to find out what's wrong with this misfit girl. You know the fucking drill. And even though bringing back Sue Snell does provide an emotional link to the first Carrie, the way they kill off her character is so anticlimactic that it makes her return entirely pointless. I mean, shit, guys, that's like if Han Solo died in The Force Awakens by slipping on a banana peel. Ben! However, there is some fun to be had in how much of a time capsule of 1999 this movie is. Back when all teenage horror movies had to be all hip and snarky and have an alternative rock soundtrack, just like Scream.
Hello?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Who is this?
Don't you recognize the voice?
Who doesn't sound yet?
I don't know, guys. This DuckTales reboot just isn't doing it for me. Then things really pick up when the movie finally gets to its take on the famous prom scene, when Rachel finds out she was being used by the jocks for their little game. The thorns on Rachel's heart tattoo spread over her skin, and she lets loose with the telekinetic mayhem.
Holy shit, dude, it's her! It's her doing it!
How did you guess?
And it's definitely enjoyable to see Rachel kill off these teasing teenagers using everything from CDs, to bad CGI fire pokers, to actual fire.
Somebody put me out! Help! Don't worry, Janice, I'll put you out. Oh, god damn it! Now I'm on fire too! You bitch!
But unlike the first one, the build-up is not nearly as exciting as the big finale, and it all ends up being only slightly better than your average straight-to-video sequel, which is to say that it's not really worth your time. Well, at least Zachary Ty Bryan was in this movie, and that means I get to mark a very exciting occasion. 3 Home Improvement cast members down, 5 to go. Oh yes, Georgie, the beer floats, and down here, you'll float too, once you've conquered the evil of the awfully good drinking game. Take a shot or drink every time the editing gets all artsy and the screen switches to black and white. Yeah, sure, that first Carrie was a classic movie and all, but it was missing one big thing. It wasn't shot and edited like Natural Born Killers. There's a flashback to footage from the first movie.
Are you sure that you're not still trying to save a girl that died 20 years ago?
And you know, by doing this, the producers can now technically say, yes, we did bring back Sissy Spacek for the sequel. Through archive footage from the last movie because she turned down our offer for a cameo. But yes, Sissy Spacek has returned for Carrie 2. You see Eddie K. Thomas, aka Finch from American Pie, reappear in the movie.
Yeah, we're missing one killer party.
Well, I guess that makes 2 future cast members of the American Pie movies to pop up in this movie. And speaking of unnecessary sequels, American Pie has 7 of them. Keep up, Police Academy, you're slacking! And take a double shot, not just when they make a reference to Stephen King himself. Ha ha, very funny, motherfucker! But also when they make a reference to the TV show Friends.
I saw her leave with Monica Jones. I guess they went to Mark Bing's party.
Rachel with Monica?
God damn you, movie. I ought to slap you for that lame-ass joke. How do you think Brian De Palma feels about you pissing on the legacy of his classic movie with all your sequels and remakes?
What's great about Carrie is they've made so many versions of it now, and they've made so many mistakes that it's wonderful to see what happens when somebody takes a piece of material and makes all the mistakes that you avoided.
Oh, well, never mind then. Apparently, he don't give a fuck. Good for him. And on the nudity watch, there's plenty of partial nudity from these dumb, horny teens, but no full frontal nudity to be had. And thank God there's nothing to arouse me too much, or else my dick would have ended up like Zachary Ty Bryan's does at the end of this movie. Oh, shot to the dick with a harpoon. Oh, that's no good. Well, now I know why his dad says he's now the last man standing. Uh-oh. Oh, no! On the enjoyableness continuum scale from Bull to Bruce, The Rage Carrie 2 is more like the annoyed indifference Carrie 2, and gets crowned at the prom with a 4 out of 10. Yes, they are all gonna laugh at you, Carrie 2, just not for the right reasons. I'm Jesse Schaefer, JoBlo.com, and speaking of Stephen King movies, I wanted to take some time out to pay tribute to the man who directed The Mangler, as well as Life Force, Tobe Hooper, who passed away last weekend. Though I may have mocked those 2 movies, he helped make them 2 of the most entertaining movies I've reviewed so far this year, and his classic films like Poltergeist and The Texas Chainsaw Massacre helped certify his status as a movie legend. So thank you, Mr. Hooper, you'll be sorely missed. We shall beat down our refrigerators in your honor.
Miserable piece of dark fuck!
JoBlo, he's your electrical. JoBlo, walking